Hey fantasy football fans, it's me, the Fantasy Football Girl, coming to you with another edition of Vlog Times. We're going to jump right into my review of Start, Sit, and Extra from last week. For those of you who are new to my blog, Start, Sit, and Extra is a little segment I do with the Fantasy Football guys on their podcast every Thursday evening. If you want to check it out, you can go to their website, thefantasyfootballguys.com, or check them out on iTunes, or I even post a link on Fridays after the show. So, my start for last week, unfortunately, was the rookie in St. Louis, Sam Bradford. He did not look good, could not get that first win for the Rams on the road. 23 of 45 completions, 215 passing yards, 21 rushing yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a sack, 0 fumbles. In fact, he hasn't fumbled all season, so, I mean, that's a plus, I guess. Yeah, he just did not look good. The Rams lost 6-44 against the Detroit Lions. It looked like Bradford just sort of got very flustered and didn't know where to throw the ball, especially after Mark Clayton's leg literally crumpled underneath him. Clayton will be out for the season, so I'd look at Amendola as an option. So yeah, not a great outing for Bradford or those of us who started him, myself included. My sit was Sean Green. Yeah, I didn't have a great week. He had 10 carries for 52 yards and his first touchdown of the season, wouldn't you know, against the 9th-ranked Minnesota Vikings run D. Of course he did, sure. So yeah, I benched him because, again, I like to take my own advice. I'm still not a total believer. I mean, LT, ran all over the Vikings last night, had a really impressive game. So I'm not a total Green believer, but, I think he's a fine bye-week option or flex. Of course, this is the first week he scored, so what are you going to do? My extra, on the other hand, that which I am very proud of, was Brandon Pettigrew, the tight end in Detroit. I predicted that this week against the Rams he would find the end zone for the first time, and in fact he did. He had 4 receptions for 26 yards and that touchdown, so that's pretty good. Sean Hill also had a great week. I recommended him as my click on the the FF Mastermind podcast last week. With Hill as the quarterback over while Stafford's rehabbing that shoulder, I think Pettigrew is going to get a lot more looks, and he can clearly find the end zone. So if you have a need at tight end, he's certainly an option. All right, so bust, bombs, and bonuses. My bust for this week and kind of for the whole season has been Greg Jennings. Now, I know he scored a couple of touchdowns, and that's great, but he's also only had 2 receptions in the past 3 games. This last week against Washington, he had those 2 receptions and only managed 22 receiving yards. That's fine if you have a flex or if you're in a 3-wide receiver league or you have a bye week option, but most people drafted Jennings pretty early expecting an elite wideout, and he certainly hasn't delivered on that end. Frankly, not much aside from Finley, who's now out with an injury, not much of the Green Bay offense has. So I would just, monitor the situation, lower your expectations. He's not a sit necessarily, but he's certainly not the Greg Jennings of years past. My bomb, Dwayne Bowe of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to be honest and tell you that I was never a Bowe believer. I don't know, it just has a thing about him I don't really like. Call it women's intuition. He had a whopping 2 receptions for 33 yards, 0 touchdowns. More impressively, he dropped 2 balls, 1 in the end zone and another one immediately thereafter. I know a lot of people who are passionate about this kid. Coach Haley thinks that he's pretty awesome too. If you're one of those people who feels passionately, like I always say, play with your gut, play with your heart. If it screws you, it's your own fault. Again, he's a fine bye-week option. He's a fine flex if you look at the matchups, but I'm just not, like I said, a total Bowe believer quite yet. My bonus, on the other hand, I am starting to believe in Brandon Lloyd of the Denver Broncos. It seems that he and Kyle Orton, who I like to call Neckbeard, have developed quite a rapport. He only had 5 receptions for 135 yards, but he scored 2 touchdowns last week against Baltimore. So that's a pretty intense defense to be scoring against. In fact, in the past 5 weeks, he's had over 100 yards every week, save week 2 against the Seahawks, and a total of 3 touchdowns. So those are stats you gotta love. He's owned in not all, but most leagues at this point. If you're a Lloyd owner, certainly after last week, this is a great time to sell high, or if you have a need at wide receiver, I would look around for a trade. So that's it for Bust Bombs and Bonuses Week 5. I'll be back in the next day or two with 1 for the money, 2 for the show, and 3 to let go. Have a great night. Bye.